So welcome back everybody, my name is Ben Schubert, I'm a filmmaker based in Vancouver, and today I want to talk about the C200. So a couple weeks ago I bought one, it arrived, hooray. But not everything's arrived yet, I'm still waiting on some pieces, and one of the things I'm waiting for is my Cfast cards. And so until then, I can't shoot RAW, which is really the main purpose of why I bought this camera, but that being said, not all the projects that I'm shooting are going to be in RAW. So this has given me some time to really get to know the 8-bit side of this camera and to really understand, the internals, and also look at something that, everybody knows about, but no one really talks about, and that's recording from the HDMI signal. So I've been doing a lot of tests for the last couple weeks, and we're going to talk about that today and what are the pros and cons of going internal or going out to a recorder like the Ninja 5 that I use. So my first impressions with the C200, the way it comes set out of the box, I was not in love with the internal codecs. And mostly that's because I didn't have the settings right. So I was shooting to MP4s, and I didn't have my internal picture profile set to a way that I really liked it. And so I was seeing a lot of noise, seeing a lot of things in the image that I didn't really like. It was hard to really push and pull it in post. A lot of that comes down to the way I had it set up. I've switched over to the XF AVC. I find that it's a little bit more robust, even if it's not perfect. A lot of that might just be that by the time I switched over to the XF AVC, I've gotten more used to the camera and getting a better image that I actually like out of it. So the MP4s might not be an issue, but I do like shooting in the XF AVC, so I'm just gonna leave it at that and continue that way. So to start off with, let's talk about the internal codecs and the pros for using those. First of all, it's smaller file sizes. It's a really efficient codec, even if it's not perfect. Another pro for using the internal codecs is that it's just less gear, right? You don't have to have a recorder. It's just a SD card in the camera, and that's really nice and simple. And then it's also just cheaper. SD cards are way cheaper than, SSDs or even using a recorder. And once you're paying out the money for a Ninja recorder, by that point, you could just be getting Cfast cards and shooting RAW and then converting in post. So it depends on what you're looking for and what you're trying to do. Now let's talk about the benefits of recording to a recorder. So I'm actually currently recording this out from the Canon C200 out to a Ninja 5 recorder. And it just so happens I have one. I have it for my EOS R. Having a monitor is a really excellent tool for managing different cameras, because you can use your monitor as a baseline between the cameras to get an image that you like. So one of the things I don't love about the internal recording is that it's at a lower bit rate. It's a really highly compressed. And so the benefit of going through the HDMI is, even though you're not getting 10-bit signal out of that, what you are getting is an uncompressed 8-bit 422 signal. And that means that when you're recording, you get to choose your bit rate. So you have the choice of the ProRes LT, which does smaller files. You can do ProRes 422, which is kind of in the middle. It gets a really good image. There's a lot to work with in post. And then ProRes HQ, which just gives you a ton of information. And those are huge file sizes, so you got to question whether your project really needs that. That's maybe a really good option for projects where you're going to be doing a lot of color grading, but if it's a fairly simple project, ProRes LT is probably fine, or ProRes 422 if you want it to look nice, but you don't need as much file size. For example, I'm currently recording this in ProRes LT. Now for the tests that I've been doing, one of the nice things that I've really found is that I can record internally and out to the recorder at the same time, so I can compare apples to apples. So these are exactly the same images that I can go back and forth and, pixel peep on and really see what's going on. And so one thing that I've really found between the ProRes and the internal recording is that when you go out to recorder, the image actually looks sharper. There's more detail, it's less compressed, you're not getting as many compression artifacts, and especially in like detail-rich scenes, this really becomes evident. So looking at images where I've filmed water moving, all right? For example, when you switch back and forth between the internal and the ProRes, you can really see how much sharper and how much more detailed the ProRes is versus the internal. So another thing I've noticed is if you are going out to ProRes HQ, the amount that you can push that image in post is considerably more. So you really get to take advantage of more of the dynamic range and really, you know, bring up the shadows, bring down highlights, balance out your image a lot more than I've found that I'm able to do with the internal codec. Now, one thing that was kind of a bummer, which I was really hoping for, was that 2K or HD 10-bit output. And I still need to do some work on this. I need to make sure that I'm actually doing this properly. So what I really found with the HD 10-bit was you actually get a lot of moire. Something about the compression, something about the output. If you look at the 4K image of essentially the same scene, but just like a little bit earlier, you don't have that moire. It's a really clean image. It looks really good with the 8-bit, but with the HD 10-bit, I do find there's just like too much moire for me to use. I was really looking forward to that because, you know, having an HD 10-bit signal could be really great because most projects you can up-res to 4K from HD and most people just won't notice, especially with the compression of online projects. I was also really hoping to have really high quality proxies for when I'm shooting in RAW. So when I'm filming in RAW, to have like a 10-bit HD proxy would be really great. In ProRes, mwah, but I haven't figured that out yet. It might still happen, but I think it's going to take me some time to really dial in those settings to get them right. So what would I recommend? I would say if it's just a quick project and you need to move light, just use the internal codecs. Now, if you have the time, budget, energy to have an external recorder and you're not going to be shooting in RAW, I think is worth it. Because not only are you getting higher quality images out of your cinema camera, which you paid a lot of money for, you're also getting better tools to use. It's easier to actually see your image with a good recorder. So because I'm using a Ninja 5, it has 1000 nits of brightness and it's really easy to see outside. So I'm still doing tests on this camera. I'm still trying to get it dialed in. I'm gonna do a video on the settings that I find at another time. But so far this is where I'm at, and if you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you have any information for me for best settings, what do you use to help me get a better image with this camera, I would love to know that, so leave it in the comments. And if you want to see more videos like this, come along for the journey and hit that subscribe button wherever it is. Yeah, anyways, see you later.